Hello and welcome to the Coaching State. This is episode 5 in our series of The Subtle Art of Coaching. And today I'm going to talk about leading questions. Now, I've been a coach since 2003. I've been an ACTP slash level 2 coach trainer since 2007. And for the last 7 years, I've been the director of training for a level 1 and level 2 programs that I authored. Now, when I started in coaching, one of the strict rules of coaching, what separated coaching from other helping professions, is this and this alone. Coaches don't give advice. That was the biggest ground rule when I first started into coaching. Coaches don't give advice. We are neutral, we don't share anything, etc. Now, I know that over the years that has softened and changed, and even the most recent update to the ICF core competencies has some slightly different, nuanced guidance on giving advice. Now, I want to take today, though, I don't want to get into the philosophy of giving advice versus not giving advice, but I do want to discuss with you the idea that a lot of people don't think they're giving advice when in actually they are. They are using certain sentence openers, they're using certain ways of phrasing things to make a suggestion, but at the same time make it sound like they're not giving advice. For many years, I've taught three of these as part of my programs. One of the very first ones was if I were you, if I were you, I would do X, Y, and Z, which really all it's saying is you should, you ought to, you could, etc. Another one, and I call these thinly veiled advice, by the way, thinly veiled advice. Another one that I used to run into quite a bit when I did mentoring or I was listening to breakouts in our live classes is other people in your situation have, and then followed by advice, followed by this is what they did. Now, again, what I often hear new coaches, especially doing, is they think, well, I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just sharing some generic information. But you want to be really careful because, again, the client often sees you as the SME. They're looking to you as the subject matter expert, often because a coach's niche defines, hey, I'm a leadership coach. So a lot of clients who don't really understand the nature of coaching look into the conversation and say, okay, well, this coach is a SME. They're a leadership coach, so they should know what to do. So when my coach says other people's in your situation have, the client goes, oh, okay, well, the coach is telling me what to do. Now, maybe that's a very unconscious process. Maybe it's conscious. I think most often it's sort of under the radar. It doesn't necessarily come across in that way. So it comes across again, it's thinly veiled, and the coach is just unable to ask a question in that moment. So they default. The easy thing is to drop the advice. So if I were you, other people in your situation are. Another really common one I've heard a few times in mentoring, have you thought of? Have you thought of X, Y, and Z as a possible solution for this? Again, just it's putting advice out there. You may as well just be saying, hey, here's some advice. Here's some information that you could take into account. I think the thinly veiled advice is even more, can be more harmful because it comes across as if it's not really advice. It sounds very coach like to the client, which I think is part of the problem. Another one is, what if you tried? What if you tried X, Y, and Z? What would that look like? How would that happen? What would the results of this be? Have you tried? Um, Another one that I've run across once or twice, could it make sense to? Could it make sense to just go to your boss and tell them how you're feeling? Again, this thinly veiled advice. Then there's a whole category here. Have you tried? Have you considered? Have you wondered? Have you thought about? Have you pondered? Whatever it is. Have you thought of this? Have you tried this? Or I thought of was earlier. Have you tried X, Y, and Z? Have you tried just going to your boss? and having that conversation. Have you tried going on the keto diet? Yeah, and then often again, you can almost hear it in the coaches. And I've even heard it once or twice slip. Have you tried the keto diet? It worked for me, which goes back to the if I were you type of phraseology. Another one I've seen, would it be better if? Would it be better if you went around and gathered support from your coworkers before talking to the boss? Notice again, it's that leading sense. It's thinly veiled advice. The coach is telling the client what to do without telling them what to do. Or what if you just? What if you just? Now, I'm sure there are many other entrances to these types of conversations. Now, I had the pleasure very early on in my coach training. I studied with a very amazing coach. Ray Choice is her name. She's a master certified coach with the ICF as well. She was one of my instructors in 2003 when I was taking my coach training. And I remember I was struggling with this a bit because I was what I thought I was a problem solver. I was the person that people came to when they couldn't solve a problem. And so I always have a solution to problems. And I found when I was coaching, I often like, oh man, I know what this person should do. I know where they should go. I know how they should take this on. And at some point, I was working with Ray, probably in my mentoring for my level two or ACTP program. And we came up with a little bit of a strategy. I don't remember the exact conversation, how it went, but I remember coming up with the strategy that if I had a great idea, I thought, I'm the coach, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got a great idea how this person could solve this problem, how they could move forward, what would be a great way to, strategize this, etc. We came to the agreement that I would write down my idea in the margin of my notes. I'd write it off to the side of the paper. And if at the end of the coaching session, my client still came up empty, they didn't have any ideas, they still were in the I don't know space, or I thought my idea was way better than theirs, then after the coaching session was all done, I could say, hey, Mr. Client, I just wanted to share an idea with you. Here it is. Now, what was really interesting, and I'm ever so grateful for Ray for this, is that I found that by the time I got to the end of the coaching session, I would jot my idea off to the side and then I would go back to coaching. And because I had jotted it down, because I had written it, my brain let go of it and I was able to go back to being more of a pure coach. Uh, and what I found was when I would get to the end of the coaching session, I'd wrap up, I'd finish, I'd thank my client, close out the session, and I'd look back and I'd go, oh, yeah, I had that idea. And what was really interesting to me, such an eye opening experience, was a vast majority of the time, the idea I jotted down, what I wrote down off to the side, was most often a really poor quality idea in the grand scheme of what my client came up to. So if I judged my idea compared to their idea 99.5% of the time was better than my idea for the client. What I found is often my ideas were my ideas. They were for me. They were for my personality. They were for my temperament. They were for my style. They were from my background and experience. They were from my SME. They were something that would work for me. But when I looked at how the client came up with their own solution that fit for them, I realized, oof, I am so glad that I didn't fall into giving advice. So I'm going to encourage you to simply hold back. If you find yourself using any of these sentence openers, if I were you, have you thought of, uh, what if you just tried this? If you find yourself wanting to make suggestions, jot your idea down off to the side of the paper or on another piece of paper, etc., depending on what you do with your notes with your client. But just jot it down, let it go, and get back to your amazing coaching questions and drawing out for the client what their strategy is, how they want to move forward, what ideas they come up with. Because in the grand scheme, remember, coaching is about the client leveling up. I don't just want my client to get their goal. I want them to get better through the whole journey. The biggest learning for my client is when they learn about about themselves. They learn how to navigate it. So in the next round, whatever it is in their life they take on next, they're more equipped because they've grown as a person, not just Tony gave them great advice on how to shortcut through it. They get to the end and then they go, oof, next time I do it, they're going to run into the same problem. And then they're coming back to me as the coach, creating a codependent style relationship. So I try to stay out of that conversation by ensuring that I'm not giving them thinly veiled advice. I'd love to hear your favorite methods for staying out of giving advice and allowing your client to have the greatest learning experience that they can in the coaching. Thank you and have a great day.